When people think of Iraq, or the Middle East in general, most people assume it's all destruction, chaos, and war. But that couldn't be further from the truth. This is one of the most misunderstood regions in the world, shaped by years of media portrayal and foreign intervention, especially from the US. What I discovered instead was a country full of rich culture, incredible adventure, and some of the best hospitality in the world. As a solo female traveler, I experienced things that completely shattered the stereotypes. The world is what it is today, thanks to Iraq and its ancient civilizations. Join me as I explore the country on my own and allow you to see what it's really like on the ground. I'll be honest, my trip to Iraq didn't start off well. Right after arriving, I was body shamed. I was told my clothes were inappropriate, even though they weren't, and that I needed to cover up because of my chest and my hips. It wasn't something I expected, especially after traveling so much. If you want the full story of what happened, check out my other video about my first impressions of Iraq. But what I quickly realized was this: I couldn't base my entire experience on the opinions of two people. Misogyny exists everywhere in the world. And it's not fair to let a couple of bad encounters define an entire country, especially one with so much to offer.
This right here, ladies and gentlemen, of course, because this is the cradle of civilization after all, this could potentially be the Garden of Eden, and this right here, Adam's tree, where he ate the forbidden fruit and all that stuff. Are there other places that claim this? Who knows? I'm not particularly familiar with that kind of history. But yeah, the historic site here.
The tree of the Garden of Eden in Iraq? Is it true? According to the Bible, it actually is. Who knows? If you're religious, you might be interested in checking this out. What I do know is that we were here for one specific reason. I was traveling solo, but I teamed up with a German guy who I met through couchsurfing to split costs. Our main goal? Visiting the famous Iraqi Marshes, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and let me tell you, we were not disappointed. The Iraqi Marshes, one of the most unique and underrated natural wonders in the world. But what are the marshes? This is a network of rivers, lakes, and wetlands that have been the lifeline of this region for over 5,000 years. And they're the largest wetlands in the whole of the Middle East. And why are they so important? To keep things short, it serves as a natural filter to keep the Arabian Gulf clean. They were home to the ancient Sumerians and are still home to the Madan, or marsh Arabs. It supports a wide range of wildlife, and like I mentioned before, this is part of what's believed to be the biblical Garden of Eden. But history here isn't that simple. Many people in this part of the country opposed Saddam Hussein's regime, and they paid dearly. He ordered people to drain them to build dikes and use it as a defense mechanism. Only 5% of the marshes were left by the 1990s. This natural site is a lifeline for many people in the region. Thanks to restoration efforts, the marshes have grown back to 40% of their original size over the last 20 plus years. Visiting today means supporting those who live in the marshes, who live from them, and encouraging more conservation. Even locals don't visit the site often. We asked around, and even people in the local village couldn't point to the exact location where we could take the boats. You can stay overnight in the marshes or simply take a 1 or 2 hour boat ride through them. Locals even invited us to have lunch with them. Grilled fish from the marshes, with no expectations whatsoever except for our company. This is Iraqi hospitality for me. Have the fish. I'd highly recommend it. And make sure to visit to see how locals work here and have built floating homes and adapted to life here. And then we drove to our next destination where I'd spent a few days getting work. So we met another solo female traveler, and she said that Nasaria is a bit more on the dodgy side, so she said that it was better to pay a little more and stay at a nicer hotel. So this is actually where UN staff stays if they're in the city. And I think this one, obviously, it's definitely not budget for me, at least, being here, because we just paid 20 last night. This is around, I think, like 60 per night, which is a pity considering, like, it's a whole room all to myself. Like, yeah, whatever. This is Eridu, and people claim this is the oldest city in the world. But what makes a city the oldest? We know that Iraq was the cradle of civilization, but then how do you determine really what is the oldest? What is a city? So cities is basically when
Instead of being nomadic, we started building societies.
We were all once nomadic, but more than 7,000 years ago, something changed. People started cultivating land, and with agriculture came the idea of ownership, not just of tools, but of property. With agriculture, communities expanded. People started building permanent structures, temples, and granaries, places that could hold surplus food and precious belongings. And all of this led to the birth of the world's first cities. And Eridu claims to be the first. But as you can see by the pottery pieces, no extensive archaeological excavations have taken place here. Imagine coming to the oldest city in the world where it's still raw. Imagine the potential of what can be discovered. This is what Iraq has. And so we went off to visit Ur. So why is Ur so important? First of all, it is extremely well preserved. Yes, it's been through reconstruction processes, and obviously it didn't look like this before, but this is what the previous side, what Eridu was going to look like one day.
How is this real? This is 7,000 years old. This is one of the first cities in the world, and it's still standing. Like, this is much, much older than the pyramids or any other place you might have thought of. Like, this is one of the first places where civilization, humans, the way that we live as we know it, started. And we're here all alone. That's the best part.
So what is Ur responsible for? They had early administrative systems, which led to what we know today as accounting and inventory management, and most importantly, and this affects all of us, math. But what do I mean by math? Dividing time. And because of Ur, we now divide time the way that we do today, by 60 seconds and 60 minutes. How incredible is this?
And we can also take a video. Say hi.
Okay.
After Ur, I met up with a couch surfer who showed me around. I know this doesn't look like anything, but the government is making so much effort to try to bring tourism into the country. Now, more than 50 nationalities can get a visa on arrival. And so many restoration projects are taking place around the country. Since ISIS was defeated in 2018, the country can now focus on what really matters, bringing people in and changing the perspective of Iraq for the rest of the world. I stayed a few days in the southern part of the country getting work done in the hotel, and then in the afternoon and in the evenings, I'd go out with a couch surfer who'd show me around. To be honest, it felt like I was the only foreigner. I was definitely the only one that was not wearing a headscarf or a hijab, and we just walk around, going through the different markets and seeing everything that this place has to offer. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not particularly a big fan of Iraqi cities. I feel like the archaeological sites and of course the marshes have much more to offer. And to end it all, of course, Mandi, hosted by my couch surfer. Traveling through Iraq is nothing like what I expected, especially not how it's portrayed in the media. Walking through parks where families were spending time together, people walking about, shopping, having dinner, celebrating. I had a rough start, I'm not gonna lie, and this is a challenging country to travel in. But here I am every day, meeting with locals, working, and being shown what local hospitality is all about. I'm here to show you the other side, the other reality, the one that shows what it's like being here as a solo Western female tourist. This was my fancy hotel, by the way, and I'm checking out and going to the taxi area to take a shared ride to Baghdad, the capital. This is how locals move around the country.
I'm not gonna lie, one of the things that's super intimidating about traveling in certain areas of the world is the fact that you, not like solo female travelers, forget it, but you barely see any women around, and then you gotta my way to do it is basically I'm friendly but not too friendly, and I have a resting bitch face on at all times, and I feel like that's one of the reasons why I normally don't get approached. People know better than to mess with me.
After After a few hours of travel, we arrived in Baghdad. I met a Canadian man from couchsurfing who took me to the most famous street in town, and we hung out there all evening.
Look at that. Beautiful. What's in there?
It's Arabic coffee. Very soft.
Arabic. It looks very dark.
Coffee bitter, coffee sweet. Why? Pizza, sweet and coffee.
I don't like coffee.
يا هلا وغلا ويا مرحبا.
It's still early here, and that's why there aren't many people here yet. This is Al-Mutanabi Street, located in the heart of Baghdad, and it is one of Iraq's most iconic and culturally significant locations. It was named after the famous 10th century poet Al-Mutanabi, and the street has long been a center of intellectual and artistic life in the city. For a long time, it has been home to a vibrant market of booksellers, cafes, and artists, making it a hub for literature, culture, and lively discussions. But locals here, especially activists who would meet here, were targeted here in the past. That's long gone now, and now this is probably the best street to witness what life in Baghdad is all about. And if you're here, make sure to take the incredibly short boat ride on the river.
Hello and good morning. I'm here with MK and he's going to be showing me around. We met through couchsurfing. He's another content creator. He's an Iraqi content creator. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey guys, how you doing? My name is Muhammad Kareem. You can call me MK. I'm a YouTuber and I'm an influencer, social media, and I'm a tour guide too. And it was a pleasure to meet you, Sibu. And we're gonna go to explore this amazing city. It's fine, it's a bit crowded, but it's gonna be cool. You're gonna like it.
Perfect. Let's go check it
Come
out.
to your right, Habibi. Come to your
Yes,
right.
Habibi, come.
MK had a lot of reviews on couchsurfing, so I had no problem meeting up with him. We took public buses, which I would have not been able to navigate on my own. Bus stops are not exactly marked here, and you need to ask locals to see exactly which bus to take and which routes are available. If not, shared taxis are a thing too. We roamed around town, we went back to Al-Mutanabi in the daytime, and MK told me all about what life was like here. He creates content and also works as a tour guide, and much of the work that he does is break down stereotypes about what Iraq is all about. He's in his mid-20s, and you can see that he's part of the new generation of Iraqis that are eager to feel like they're part of the world. With the complex invasion and sanction that Iraq has faced over the last years, this is challenging. But with the rise of social media and the introduction of electronic visas and visas on arrival, he tells me that things feel like they're changing. I'll be linking his YouTube channel and IG profile in the description box below, so you can contact him directly if you want to visit.
ابو معك انفجارات ما يشيلون يم ولا قوم حتى بتسمي لهم اليوم بدون دم ويقول لك يم هم مان يعني راح تخرب لعبتي لان منا مشي وتلفف.
You need to see this place. This is, and then with the sun setting, it looks absolutely crazy. Can you tell us a little bit more about this shrine?
Yes, right now we're in Kazmiya, and we're on the shrine of Imam Kazim. He's one of the grandsons of the Prophet Muhammad. And there's two domes, and there's two graves inside for Prophet. Oh, we call it Imam Kazim and Muhammad al-Jawad, his grandson. And Prophet Muhammad, everybody know him. And yeah, right now it's Ramadan, so the vibes are a bit different.
Really?
So cool,
Okay.
yes. People are distributing food for free for like iftar for the people who are fasting. It's fascinating. You can feel like the vibes of Ramadan and Muslims here right now.
It's incredible. So a lot of people actually recommend against visiting Muslim majority countries during Ramadan, but I'd highly recommend it. It's just a completely different experience from what you know.
If
really
you
see.
love food a lot and you eat like 3 to 4 meals a day, I would not recommend it for Ramadan.
That is very
Otherwise, it's
true.
recommended.
But when everybody breaks fast, which is called iftar, it's incredible. The vibes are great, and then everybody's hungry, and there's like a really good sense of community. So let's go check it out. So iftar, we got ourselves some juice because of course totally necessary in my world. And that shrine, I wish I'll find pictures and I'll share it.
I
Like,
have videos. I can
you do?
send it to you.
How did you get videos?
I got a permission to go inside.
You did? Okay, well,
Yes.
we're getting his videos then, and I'm
Yes.
gonna show you. I was just gonna look for stuff online. I teared up. I'm not even joking. Like, it was so extremely beautiful. It looked beautiful from the outside, but no. Like, it was just glittering. It looked like diamonds everywhere. Oh, amazing. But it's not even that, just everybody around you praying, the call of prayer. I felt so much peace and I felt so content. Incredible. Highly, highly recommend it. Hello from Babylon. You've heard of this place. Most of you have. You've heard there's songs named after this place, you know. This is one of the oldest, like, I know there seems to be a theme out here, but it is. This is the cradle of civilization after all. This is one of the oldest cities in the world. This is Babylon right here. This is what the gate used to be. Now, you can see that it's in perfect condition. The original one, this is not the original one. So what happened is that the original one was found by villagers in the 1800s, and there were like pieces scattered. And then, of course, guess who? The Germans in this case, of course, took all of the pieces, put it together, and put it up in a museum, which you can see in Berlin, actually. And the Iraqi government has specifically said that they want, they want their gate back. They want their Babylon gate back, and they're not going to give it to them because the German government, according to them, said that they're afraid that the Iraqi government is not going to take care of it. So basically, just taking artifacts that don't belong to them, and then when the government is specifically asking for them, saying no. And this is something that really infuriates me. Let's face it, it's not like the Iraqi government or its people is getting anything out of it being in Berlin. It belongs to Iraq.
So I've been attacked by my statement on social media over this gate over the last few months, so I obviously had to dig a little deeper to prove my point. This is not just a gate, it serves as a symbol of Iraq's cultural identity. So during the 2003 invasion, families, some risking their lives, went out of their way to hide and protect thousands of artifacts from looters and from being destroyed. And many of these can now be found in the National Museum in Baghdad, including, yes, 3 chunks of the gate which Germany gave to Iraq in the 60s, and they have not been destroyed, by the way. We need to understand that when a country is attacked and destroyed to its core, people will hold on to their identity, and the gate represents just that. It's not just Iraq though. Greece and Egypt have been asking for their artifacts back for years. This is not about safety, it's about control. But let's go back and talk a little bit more about Babylon.
There may be a few other tourists, but that's it. It's all us. So much of this place is still really well preserved. It's absolutely incredible. You can see the difference here. So you can see how this has been refurbished right over here. Some of this has been and some of this hasn't. This is thousands and thousands and thousands of years old. This is absolutely incredible. Probably the oldest all of this, probably some of the oldest cities, like where civilization started. I don't think I've been anywhere as old as this. This feels like a maze. I have no idea where I'm going. Figure it out. I'm trying. We all decided to take separate ways. I'm trying to get to that side. I think I found it. Look. The rest. Let's see what it's all about.
And so this is Babylon. This ancient city is located about 85 kilometers south of Baghdad, and it was once part of an empire, and it's considered one of the most legendary places in human history. That's why you've heard of it. And I'm just walking around to show you its size. It had political power, and it was extremely modern culturally and in terms of architecture. You might have also heard of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, which was one of the 7 ancient wonders. Now, there's no evidence that whether or not it really existed, but if it did, it would have been an incredible feat of engineering. But here's the best fact about Babylon. This is where Alexander the Great died in 323 before Christ. After conquering much of the known world, he made Babylon his residence, and it was going to be the center of his empire. But he got sick and passed away right here. And it's natural to see why he wanted to establish himself here. The city had an impressive drainage system and streets wide enough to allow for processions and large gatherings. And so Saddam Hussein wanted to bring Iraq to its former glory as the cradle of civilization. He restored the Babylon grounds, badly, we have to add, and even built a palace by the grounds.
So today, right after Babylon, because it's got views of Babylon, we're visiting Saddam Hussein's palace, and it's now part of a park that you can actually visit. The entrance is only 1,000 Iraqi dinar, and you're only allowed on the ground floor, but thanks to MK here, we've actually got access, and we're gonna head out to the second floor, so this is... Imagine being a dictator. Stealing all this money, killing all these people, and being able to build palaces like these.
And visit Iraq without speaking about the infamous Saddam Hussein. He wanted to tie himself to Iraq's past, and even declared himself the protector of Iraq. It's interesting to bring him up here. I obviously only do this when I know it's safe and I've built some trust with the locals. The younger generation seems to be completely against him. Some of the older ones relish his glory, especially since they're unhappy with the current government. Hussein had good intentions, to begin with. He wanted to put Iraq back in the map. He was one of the drivers behind Iraq's oil boom. They were the second largest producer in the region after Saudi Arabia. He restored many archaeological sites around the country. He had some social programs in place for locals. I'm here speaking facts. I do not condone any of his actions. But greed got in the way. He started by converting all the roles into one and turning the government into a dictatorship, to the point where he'd persecute and murder anyone who opposed him. This number goes in the hundreds of thousands.
Narcissism at its finest. That's Babylon right there. Babylon was even mentioned in the Bible. Just think about the historical significance of this place. 7,000 years old, and this man decides to build a palace, creates an artificial hill, builds a palace right on top of this. In a regular world, he would have not been able to do this. Like, obviously, there are probably ruins right after this palace, but nope, he went ahead and did it and built it because he wanted the use of Babylon.
So what is this palace exactly? Saddam Hussein built dozens of them all around the country. It was a way to remind people who was in charge. And money from locals, billions, were spent while people were going through wars and displacement. This is the one by Babylon, which is officially closed now but wasn't when we visited it, so you can't see this one anymore. But you can easily see what he thought of himself. There you can easily see where he even kept the throne. So what happened to the palaces? Some were looted, destroyed, or in this case, abandoned, and now just serve as a reminder of what happened then. The man taking care of the palace showed us around, and then was kind enough to invite us to his home afterwards. He decided that he was done for the day, especially because it was Ramadan. The caretaker of the palace decided to shut down for the day and graciously invited us to his home, where we got to spend time with his family and the funniest bird I've ever seen. He fed us, even though him and his whole family were fasting. And then we got to visit his farm. Imagine meeting a group of strangers and inviting them over for a meal. Would you do that? Probably not. Have you ever encountered anything like that? If you have, I bet it was in a remote area or in a country like Iraq, the kind of country that people are scared of visiting. But once you're in the ground, you realize how different the reality is. And I'll be coming back again. This time around, the first time around, was for tourism. I got a job with a new travel company, and I'll be coming back to Iraq a few times per year. So you'll definitely see more content coming from here. Now, if there's anything I want you to take from this video, it's kindness, hospitality. Basra, the border city down south in Iraq, is the one city with the largest oil reserves in the world. A coincidence? Iraq was invaded on the grounds that it contained a large amount of weapons of mass destruction. This was not true. The aftermath of this was horrific to its people, and even with sanctions in place, they're still trying to make it through and lead a normal life. But not just any life, the type where you give without expecting anything in return, and even invite strangers to your home, or take them out for a dessert. This is the other side of Iraq.
I've got a makeshift sort of tripod going on here in the airport. There's pigeons in the airport. I've only ever seen birds inside one airport, and believe me, it wasn't on purpose. See, there you go. So Iraq, like, this is where it all started. We human beings were the way that we are because of Mesopotamia. So there's just, it was incredible, incredible. And yet, however, this has been by far the most challenging country I've ever done on my own. So I'm very overwhelmed. I'm tired. I need to go back, read a lot, like take it all in. I can see why people hire guides. It's definitely an easier way to deal with it all. Am I coming back? Yes, you know that. Would I come back even if I didn't have to come back because of work? Definitely, but it's been challenging to say the least. I'm very tired, very very tired. I'm exhausted. This is one of those trips where like you're just left emotionally drained. So this is just the beginning. I hope this gave you a little bit of a glimpse of what life here is really like. It's incredibly safe, extremely safe, and yet I'm overwhelmed because it was very culturally religious, which is not something. I don't know what to say. Like I've been to Afghanistan, for example, but like it was with a guide. This felt completely different. So that's sad. I don't know if that has inspired you to visit Iraq or not, but I hope at least it has allowed you to see this specific country from a different light and to help you understand that whatever you see on the media is so far from the truth. And that's it. So subscribe, follow along as I show you more different destinations around the world that you might not otherwise see from anybody else. I'll see you soon. Bye.